Thank you for tuning in to The Boardroom, where we highlight important updates, discussions, and decisions from each monthly Atlanta Public Schools board meeting. I am Sharice Darby, and this is an inside view of the boardroom from the June 10th, 2013 meeting. It has been a very busy budget season for the Atlanta Board of Education as the board works with APS leaders to approve a fiscal year 2014 budget by June 27th. At the June board meeting, Chief Financial Officer Chuck Burbridge presented the financial forecast for the district. According to Burbridge, there were essentially no changes in the revenue or expenditure forecast for May. Additionally, there was no new news to report for the revenue expenditures.
So the June board meeting, we have not changed the forecast from the May presentation at all. So if to remind you, we're projecting again, $566.9 million in revenue for the year and $578.3 million of expenditures. That will lead us to reducing our fund balance by $11.4 million, leaving an ending fund balance for FY13 of 69.5, which is consistent with the numbers we've been talking about throughout our budget deliberations. So.
The board tentatively adopted the special revenue, capital projects, and debt service budgets for fiscal year 2014 at the June 10th meeting. The special revenue budget outlines the estimated revenues and expenditures of special revenue grants and projects for the fiscal year 2014 budget. The estimated special revenue budget totals over $130 million for fiscal year 2014. Since revenue equals expenditures, the net cost to the district is zero. The capital projects budget outlines revenues and expenditures of capital projects for the fiscal year 2014 budget. The capital project budget totals over $6 million. And the fiscal year 2014 debt service budget outlines the revenues and expenditures of debt service for the fiscal year 2014 budget. The Atlanta Board of Education recently held several budget commission and community meetings to review the budget for the fiscal year 2014 and hear feedback from the community, students, and parents. Chief Financial Officer Chuck Burbridge discusses some of the top priorities for fiscal year 2014.
As always, the most important areas of the budget are those areas affecting students directly. The board has put a great emphasis this year on trying to maintain or actually decrease class sizes in the district. We've been certainly trying to ensure that all of our students have access to the same uniform quality of courses, be it foreign language, music, arts, and particularly English and math. But also, in addition to education, though, other critical areas the community has expressed interest in are our security area. We are implementing an enhanced model of school resource officers for the schools during the daytime to help our students perform and work in an environment, study in an environment that's conducive to learning. Trying to provide a full program has been a challenge. This year is probably as much of a challenge as in any year we've had, and so as a result, recognizing the needs of the students has meant that we've had to make sacrifices and ask our employees to make certain sacrifices. So unfortunately, once again, we're looking at another fiscal year without pay raises for the employee population. We also, when we started the fiscal year discussions, we had hoped to eliminate furlough days. In the end, we were only able to reduce furlough days from 4 down to 3 for the general employee population, and yet the senior leadership, kind of the management of the district we're still going to take 4 to again try to put the resources into the classroom as best we can.
Board Chair Ruben McDaniel explains the timeline for budget approval.
Yes, we approved the tentative budget last week. And then for the special revenue funds, we approved those tentative budgets this past board meeting. And so we will have one more budget commission meeting next week, and then on June the 27th, we will pass the final budget for 2013-14.
The board's Policy Review Committee met on April 23, 2013. reviewed feedback from instructional staff from the April board meeting, and recommended revisions to the cell phone policy. The revision allows for the incorporation of personal devices into the instructional program. The board accepted the revision to the policy for final approval at the June 10th meeting. According to the policy, the Atlanta Board of Education has as its highest priority an emphasis on student success. The board also supports parents and/or guardians' rights to decide whether to allow their children to carry mobile telephones and other portable electronic devices. To avoid disruption of instruction, the use of electronic devices, including but not limited to mobile telephones and other portable electronic devices, is allowed with restrictions. The use of mobile telephones and other personal electronic devices is a privilege the board extends to students with the consent of the student's parent and/or guardian before and after the official school day. All devices must be out of sight and turned off during the official school day and the lunch break, except in cases of health or other unusual reasons as approved on an individual basis. The policy will go into effect for the 2013-14 school year and beyond. The board's Policy Review Committee met on April 23, 2013, and recommended revisions to Policy BA, Goals and Objectives. This revision aligns Policy BA with the vision, mission, core beliefs, and commitments that were adopted by the board and the district's strategic plan. The board accepted the revision to Policy BA for final approval at the June 10th meeting. The district's current mission, vision, core beliefs, and goal and objectives are as follows. Mission. The mission of the Atlanta Public Schools is to educate all students through academic excellence, preparing them for success in life, service, and leadership. Vision. The vision of the Atlanta Public Schools is to be a student-centered, high-performing urban school district where all students become successful, lifelong learners and leaders. Core beliefs and commitments. 1. We believe that all children can learn. 2. We believe that teachers matter. 3. We believe that community is critical. 4. We believe all students should be fully prepared and inspired to graduate from high school, ready for college and/or careers. And 5. We believe that students should be lifelong learners. Goals and objectives for the district. The superintendent shall present annually to the board goals and objectives designed to achieve the board's vision and mission. The board's work shall be in support of its goals and priorities, which shall be established annually. At the June 5, 2013 meeting of the board's Policy Review Committee, the committee recommended to the board a revision to Policy DC for its consideration. The revision changes the legal level of control of the budget. The revision requires board approval for transfers of appropriations within divisions that exceed $1 million or 2% of the total division budget, whichever is less. Board approval would also be required for all transfers of appropriations between the budgets of divisions. At the June 10th meeting, the board approved the superintendent's recommendation to deny 3 startup charter school petitions. On April 19, 2013, Atlanta Public Schools received 7 petitions for proposed startup charter schools to begin operations in August 2014. The petitions were reviewed to ensure the contents included required components of the amended Georgia Charter Schools Act of 1998, the current charter schools rule, and the Atlanta Public Schools policy and application for startup charter school petitioners. 2 petitions, Prada Academy School and Rhodes Institute of Science, Technology, and Mathematics, were returned to petitioners as substantially incomplete. Of the remaining 5 petitions, 3 petitions, Nexus Academy of Atlanta, Georgia Family Academy Charter School, and Greater Change Performing Arts Academy, were deemed deficient for reasons including, but not limited to, lacking viable educational plans, leadership capacity, facilities plan, sound financial planning, and community support. Atlanta Public Schools will provide a written statement of the denial to each charter petitioner and the state board within 60 days of local board action. The remaining 2 petitions are still under review and will come before the board at a later date. Byron Amos also brought forward a motion to dissolve the small school structure at Booker T. Washington High School for the 2013-14 school year.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add to the agenda, actually, if I may. That's a discussion and action item around the small schools of Washington High School. It's very different. I would hoping that we would have shown some of the type of leadership, and as far as moving this ball further down the road as we have done. It's been 2 years now that we have talked about closing these small schools, and I think it's time, since no data that I have seen show that the small schools of Washington High School is effective, that we go ahead and do what we're planning on doing anyway in the next school year, is to show some leadership, stop our school from hurting, and go ahead and close the small schools of Washington High.
There were reservations from some board members and the superintendent in regards to the short timeline the district would have to implement the change prior to the 2013-14 school year. Superintendent Davis will draft a report detailing 3 different timeline options for transitioning Washington High School from the small school structure: August 2013, January 2014, and August 2014 are the options. After lengthy discussion, Amos withdrew his motion from the floor. The small schools at Washington discussion will be added to the agenda for the board's special meeting on June 27, 2013. The board continues to do work regarding the search for a permanent superintendent.
Yes, well, we spent the last several months putting together a superintendent profile, really asking a lot of stakeholders what they believe would be the important components of a superintendent, what they think the strengths of the district are, what they think the weaknesses of the district are. And the idea will be at July 1st meeting to actually have a profile that the board then will go through and approve. It is important for the citizens to know that on June 24th there will be a last opportunity for citizens to come down to the central office building and give input into what they think the superintendent position ought to look like. And that will happen at 6 o'clock on June the 24th. The survey is also online if people want to fill out the superintendent survey. Once we have the profile in place, we'll post for the job. Our expectation would be that posting would be out for 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be looking for candidates who are seeking positions, but also candidates we think are, good superintendent fits for us, and going out and actively recruiting those candidates. And our hope would be that by the September-October timeframe, we're deliberating around resumes and candidates and bringing those candidates into Atlanta. And as we get down to the final several candidates, we will have open forum for the public to be able to participate in meeting candidates and really understanding the public view of where they see these candidates and how they fit. And our hope would be that sometime this winter we would have named a superintendent that could transition here in the spring of 2014.
The Superintendent Search Committee of the Atlanta Board of Education will convene a committee meeting at 5 o'clock p.m. on Monday, June 24, 2013. The committee will discuss the progress that has been made regarding the superintendent search. The Superintendent Search Committee, PROACT Search Firm, and the Atlanta Board of Education will also convene a community meeting at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 24, 2013. This meeting will facilitate an opportunity for community members and stakeholders to provide additional feedback regarding the profile and qualities for the next Atlanta Public Schools superintendent. Both meetings will be held in the Center for Learning and Leadership Auditorium, 130 Trinity Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. Additionally, the board encourages parents, students, employees, and the community to participate in an online survey regarding the superintendent search. The survey will remain open until June 24th, 2013. You can access the survey at www.surveymonkey.com/s/Atlanta Superintendent Search. In this week's New Hire Spotlight, we would like to congratulate 3 newly approved APS principals. At the June 10th board meeting, the Superintendent, Board of Education, and APS leaders recognized the 3 newly hired principals.
Earlier today, we introduced 3 principals who were approved for appointment at the May board meeting. Dwayne Hale, who is principal of Price Middle School, Frederico Lowe of Continental Colony Elementary School, and Patrick Muhammad of Grove Park Elementary School. These principals will start their new positions on July 1st, and we certainly wish them well.
Congratulations on your new positions at Atlanta Public Schools. During the month of May, board members attended commencement ceremonies for each of its 10 high school campuses. Over the course of a week, the district proudly welcomed into the alumni ranks nearly 2,000 graduates from throughout the city. The class of 2013 earned college scholarship offers of more than $100 million, an increase from approximately $87 million earned by the class of 2012. The district is proud to announce that it produced more 2013 Gates Millennium Scholars than any other school system in the state of Georgia. Congratulations to the class of 2013. APS teachers, leaders, and staff wish you much success.
I want to congratulate the class of 2013. I had the pleasure of attending all but one of the graduation ceremonies, and I was particularly pleased to attend the first of its scale ceremony for our GED and adult education graduates earlier this year. This was a very memorable and very moving experience. We are quite proud of our graduates. And our graduates are headed across the country to some very prestigious universities, to technical schools, to the military, and to the workforce. And I wish our grads the very best.
Board members also visited Boyd Elementary School in May to listen to U.S. Education Secretary Arne Duncan lead a discussion about early childhood education. Atlanta Public Schools Associate Superintendent Steve Smith, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal, Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed, and Commissioner Bobby Cagle joined Duncan as forum panelists and responded to questions about the future of early education programs like Georgia's pre-kindergarten program. Stephanie Blank served as the moderator. The panelists spoke before an audience of APS parents, students, employees, and elected officials, and state and local activists.
Public schools have gone through a very, very difficult time, but they are handling everything, I think, impeccably well. They're making all the right decisions, and I think the children today are being very, very well served. So we're going to do whatever we can to support those efforts. And when you stumble and fall, you either stay down and you pick yourself back up. This community, not just the school system, but this city and the school system, I think, has picked themselves up in a pretty remarkable way.
The Atlanta Board of Education opened the doors of its archives and museum on Friday, June 7th, accompanied by a celebratory ribbon cutting at the Atlanta Public Schools Center for Learning and Leadership.
1, 2, 3.
Designed to preserve and showcase Atlanta Public Schools' rich 141-year history, the museum is an extension of the commitment, innovation, controversy, and odyssey that has propelled the district and Atlanta to success. The museum houses a variety of archives ranging from a manual school bell and high school yearbooks to the historic David T. Howard High School Principal's Counter, where parents of students like Martin Luther King Jr., Vernon Jordan, Maynard Jackson, and Walt Frazier registered their children for school. Numerous other APS students turned leaders attended the unveiling, including the Honorable Judge Glenda Hatchett, Atlanta City Council President Caesar Mitchell, and media personality and Atlanta Daily World publisher Alexis Scott. At each board meeting, community stakeholders are given an opportunity to speak publicly to the board. Several of the public comments at the June 10th meeting focused on the small school structure at Washington High School, Kennedy Middle School, public engagement, and a cost of living increase for teachers. Let's take a brief look at a few of the night's public comments.
Here to thank you all, first of all, for at least putting on the docket the resolution to revisit the keeping Kennedy Middle School open. I applaud you. It was a unanimous decision. So now we have to move to the next step and make sure that it's unanimous one more time. I would say the decision that you made and that you voted on pretty much is to breathe, and I'm going to paraphrase, to breathe new life into a dismal situation that our young people are facing. And let's see, of course, Kennedy Middle School, that's one that suffered from the CRCT cheating scandal. the worst in history, school closures, and merged into a situation that's unconducive to learning, violence on a daily basis, suspensions at will, and lack of support and resources. But the silver lining in all of that is they get to go home. Isn't that crazy? You'll think, hey, a great school life, you'll enjoy staying there, but hey, a lot of these kids look forward to going home.
I rise to ask this board to open up its process for more better public engagement. We do not need to have the public come out and speak, and we can't have you as examples who's saying that you want community involvement and you want parents to be involved in their schools where you shut out their voices. These public engagements ought to be a part of your coverage and your meeting that citizens can view, that they may feel that they also have heard or see or concerns are being addressed, that they can, that touches them, that they can attach to and join in.
Board Chair Ruben McDaniel says the board has a lot of upcoming work centered around the budget and the district's superintendent search. Listen to Ruben's remarks regarding the June 10th meeting as he recaps important moments and outlines key objectives for the board moving forward.
We had a couple of policy items that were important. We passed a cell phone policy. I think really coming up to the current age where students just have cell phones. I mean, at the end of the day, our society's moved to that position, so we're trying to figure out how to best allow students to have the access that they need, but not be a disruption in class. And so we have passed a cell phone policy that loosens up the ability for students to carry cell phones, but still restricts them from having them in class. We also passed a budget related to how a policy related to how the budget can be changed during the year, and we've tentatively said that any increase over 2% of anyone's budget would have to come back for board approval. Again, balancing the administrative role and the board policy role. And so I believe that that is a good policy from that perspective. So those were kind of the two major policies that were passed this budget. This board meeting. The rest of it was fairly perfunctory. Well, I think that as we get into summertime and we finish up the budget season, certainly things slow down a bit. But we'll start in July having to prepare for the next school year. It'll be upon us before we know it, and really making sure that all of our policies are in place, that from a building perspective we have all of the resources necessary to complete building programs, making sure that teacher allocations are done quickly. We want to reduce the amount of leveling and transition in the first couple weeks of school, and so we really try to prepare for that. So I think this this board meeting again was a little bit of a lull from an action perspective. The budget will be passed on June 27th, but I think that going into July we'll begin planning for next school year and recognizing we have to have things in place when the children come back to school in August.
Thank you for tuning in. Tune in each month for information regarding the Atlanta Board of Education and important agenda items from monthly board meetings. The next board meeting will be held on July 1st, 2013 at the Center for Learning and Leadership, 130 Trinity Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. Stakeholders who would like to provide public comment during the monthly Committee of the Whole meeting should contact the board office at least 1 hour prior to the scheduled start time of the Committee of the Whole meeting by calling 404-802-2200. Stakeholders wishing to address the board during the community meeting must register in person at the sign-in table from 5 o'clock p.m. to 5:50 p.m. on the day of the community meeting. Community members must list their names and agenda item or topic they wish to address. Community members will be given up to 2 minutes to address the board. At APS, we are renewing our commitment to you.